So in January 2022, the first video I made this year, the first words out of my mouth in that video were, it's gonna be another tough year for buyers. And boy, was I right. If you were trying to buy a house anywhere from the beginning of the year all the way through the spring, you know it was just crazy. The market was nuts. If a house had a door and half a window on it, it was getting 20 offers, all cash, ready to close right now, and it was just insane if you were trying to buy a house. If you're thinking about buying a house, or selling a house in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point, watch this video till the end. It's gonna have some really good information so that way you can make the best decision for you and your family. I'm Jeff Valentino, celebrity YouTube real estate agent. I love helping people buy and sell houses. My contact information is below if you need some help with that. All right, so in that video I said I was gonna tell you when things started to change, and things are starting to change. I just wanna be careful on how that's worded. We hear so many things about crash, bubble, cliff, this, that, you know, all these things that make people think that everything is gonna come tumbling down. It's not quite that, but the market is changing, so I wanna make sure that you're aware of it. The real estate market is a big ship. It doesn't usually turn on a dime or fall off a cliff or anything like that. It's usually a big, slow, gradual turn, and that's kind of what I think is gonna happen over the next 6 to 12 months. What brought this on is Fannie Mae. They revised their predictions for the rest of 2022 and into 2023. They said in 2023 they're predicting 4.6 million sales, which is much different than what they said at the beginning of this year. They were forecasting a much higher number of sales. Now this is where also the caution needs to come in, right? Because so many people equate fewer sales with lower prices and a tumbling market. So let's take a look at what that means, what fewer sales is gonna mean for the real estate market, what's going on in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point right now, and what I think is gonna happen over the next 6 to 12 months as well. So again, fewer sales are not gonna mean lower prices. As a matter of fact, we saw that exact thing this year. Our sales are slightly behind of where they were in 2021, but have prices gone down? No, they've gone up, right? Fewer sales this year were a simple demand issue. There were this many people that wanted to buy houses, and there were only this many houses for sale. But back to what I was seeing in this market this year, even right now as things are starting to change. We were in a white hot seller's market for the first part of the year, all the way through the spring, part of last year as well. I mean, it was just a white hot seller's market. So we're changing, we're shifting into a hot seller's market. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a hot seller's market. It's not gonna be super crazy white hot like it was, but it's still hot. The average days on market remain very low. Most homes are getting multiple offers in the first couple days of being on the market. Offers over asking price remain really high. As a matter of fact, we can throw this chart up right now. In Forsyth County last month, the average is about 103% of asking price throughout the whole county. So you see people are still paying a premium for these houses. One of the places we are seeing it sometimes, and this is not every time, but sometimes we're seeing the number of offers on each house are less than what it was at the beginning of the year. So at the beginning of the year, if there was a dozen or 14 offers, we're seeing now 4, 6, maybe 8 offers on those same type of properties. The last thing I'll touch on is the inventory. It is about 30% higher than when I made that video at the beginning of the year. So we have about 30% more homes for sale, but you know, there's always another side of that coin, right? The other side of that coin is we're still near record low levels of inventory. So the first part of the year, we saw that really white hot demand from buyers and really low levels of inventory. Made it great if you were selling a house, made it really difficult if you were looking to buy a house. That's kind of what we saw through this first 6 months. It's just started to change now. We're seeing slightly few showings. We're seeing slightly less offers. We're seeing slightly more inventory. Some of this is due to, you know, everything that's going on in the economy right now, the seasonality of the real estate market, right? Kids get out of school, the market takes a little bit of a pause while they go on vacation, relax, do their thing for a little bit. We're starting to see a little bit normal seasonality. We did not see that the last year and a half because of everything that was going on with the pandemic and everything like that. We just motored right through. This year, finally, we're starting to see more people are traveling, getting a little bit back to normal. So some of that is just the seasonality as well. So now let's take a look at a few things that are going on right now that's going to affect the real estate market in the next 6 to 12 months. And the first thing we got to probably talk about on here is inflation. It's, you know, you've probably seen the reports. You've probably heard the news stories. You've experienced it whenever you've bought something, right? It's high. It's at a 40-year high right now. So with so much money being in circulation, right, the government, what their plan is, what they have to do is they have to kind of inflict some temporary pain on the economy to get spending under control, because there are so many dollars in the economy. So what they do is they're raising rates. So they want to get this under control. If they can is, remains to be seen. We printed so much money over the last couple of years. There's so much extra dollars in circulation. We'll have to see what happens, but that is going to play a part over the next 6 to 12 months because it's removing buyers from this market. The other thing that's removing buyers from this market that we need to discuss is interest rates on homes. Most people were expecting rates to go up this year. It's been talked about for a really long time leading up to this year. Even at the last quarter of last year, they started having discussions about this. What people didn't know and what people kind of didn't see is the rates to go up this much this quickly. I was reading on Housing Wire where, as much as interest rates have gone up, have taken 20 or more % of the buyers out of the real estate market altogether. And ones that it hasn't, it has really impacted their ability. They've had to look at homes at lower price points and make other adjustments, try to come up with more money down or do different things like that to try to afford a similar type home. So that is having a really big impact. So we talked about, inflation and rates, they're having kind of a negative impact. Remember, demand was so much higher than supply. If we knocked out half of the buyers that were in the market, it would still be favorable to sellers though. All right, let's get to supply now. What's going to happen with the supply of homes, right? We've already known inventory was so low that was contributing to a lot of this. So the big buckets that we have to look in for supply, right, are home builders, are people listing their house, and then foreclosures. Home builders, while they're trying to get, and they're working through some of the supply chain issues, we're still not seeing them produce homes anywhere near where they need to be to meet up with demand. It's still not to where you go in the sales center, you pick your lot, you pick your house, they start to build. They're still doing like almost kind of a hybrid model where it's kind of like a spec build where they get the house started, they pick out a lot of the finishes and stuff like that, and then they'll put it on the market. That's the vast majority of builders still right now. So they're working to catch up on that supply, but that's still gonna lag behind for quite some time. On the foreclosure piece, while the foreclosure moratorium went away and we saw filings go up, again, looking at the headlines, foreclosure filings doubled. Yeah, it went from 3 to 6. I mean, it's still just not a big number. The other thing with foreclosures is that people have gained so much equity over the last couple of years, the likelihood of them going all the way through foreclosure and then the bank foreclosing on that home without them selling and be able to even to make some money when they sell, even if they're in foreclosure, is unlikely. So I don't see that being a huge source of supply coming. If it is, are the investors or the big hedge funds going to try to scoop them up in big swaths like they've been before? I don't know, we'll have to see, but I don't think right now, or at least over the next 6 to 12 months, that foreclosures are going to be a huge source of inventory. So the last one on the supply side, and let's think about this together for a second, is the everyday person that lists their home on the open market, right? What 90% of all the sales are is they go into the MLS, they go on the open market, and they're what we're usually searching for most of the time. Here's the interesting scenario on that. So these folks over the last few years, they have rates of 3, 3.5, some in the high 2s, low 4s. So they have really, really good rates. Is someone that has an interest rate of 3% going to list their house and prices have gone up so much and they're not going to be able to get to afford that much bigger of a house from when they originally bought and go into a 5.5 or 6% interest rate or even higher if rates continue to rise? Are they going to want to do that? That's dangerous. I think that's unlikely. Unless that, if they have to sell for a job or, downsizing, if it's a more of a have to situation, that's a totally different story. But how many people are going to want to do that? I don't know. I tend to think that listings are going to be hard to come by over the next 6 to 12 months while these things get worked out. So the way I'm seeing it, I see some definite things that are going to hurt the demand for housing, right, with inflation and rates going up. But I also see the supply side not picking back up. I don't see a lot of extra inventory coming on the market. So if, the supply side comes up a little, and even if the demand gets chopped down by a decent amount, the market, I think, will still favor sellers. I think, like I said, it's just going to be more stabilizing. And this is going to be a slow turning thing. I mean, real estate's going to lag behind some of the other economic indicators and things like that. But over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to just start to see, I believe, a gradual shift. Right now, it's still a hot market that still really favors sellers. but it's not an automatic slam dunk, you know, whatever is going to happen and I'm going to make a ton of money, right? It's not that anymore. That is different. I think with everything going on in the economy and things like that, we might see fewer sales. I don't know if Fannie's prediction is going to be correct or not. It kind of makes sense that if the economy is not doing well and buyer confidence is not great, that we're going to see lower sales overall. Again, I just want to caution you that that does not mean necessarily that prices are going to come down or anything like that, because I don't think prices are going to come down, at least not over the next 6 to 12 months. So given all this information, if you're thinking about buying or selling in the next, 6 to 12 months, what should you do? Again, all real estate, is local. We can look at national trends and everything like that, but, North Carolina is a growth state. The Triad region in North Carolina, Winston Salem, Greensboro, High Point, the surrounding areas, they're a growth area as well. People like the overall affordability and quality of life here. So this is not one of the places that people are fleeing from. So I think this area, the demand for housing is still going to be really strong. But my biggest advice to you would be to, if you're looking to buy, to stay within your budget, right? See what numbers work for you and stay within your budget. And that's what I see some people doing right now is they are closing on houses right now with an adjustable rate or with a fixed rate, knowing that if things kind of go like the economists and things are saying, things will kind of settle down, inflation will ease over the next year or two, prices will come back down, rates should kind of come back down, and then their plan is to refinance into a lower fixed rate at that time. That would be my backup plan. If I love this house and plan to stay there, I would refinance into a lower fixed rate, hopefully over the next couple of years. The dangerous scenario again in there is if you say I'm going to sit and wait this out, and again, if prices, they're not going to go up, 20% in a year. That was unsustainable, right? But I do think they are going to keep going up. So again, are you going to keep renting or staying where you're at while prices continue to go up? That's a decision you have to make. But I think real estate, again, unless you're trying to speculate and time the market and think this is going to be an investment where you're going to make 20% next year, I would discourage that. If you're looking for a spot for you or to retire or to start over or for you, whatever that case, if you're planning on going somewhere where you want to put down roots and you're planning on staying a little while, I think real estate is still a great investment. And overall, again, it's going to go in fits and ups and downs and things like that, but the overall trend is up. So if it's a long-term thing for you, I still think buying a house is a good idea. I have told more people in the last couple of weeks, though, that maybe it's time for them to wait. Maybe they should wait and see what happens if the job is not certain, or if they're not going to be in an area, if they're coming here and they're not sure it's going to be more than a year or two or something like that, maybe that's a time to wait. So I have had that conversation more in the last couple of weeks, but again, those are just the more rare scenarios. If you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation about that, if I can help you, feel free to reach out to me via email. It's jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day.